Hey, dear beloveds, and welcome. We are now, I'm just getting my camera set up because once again, I don't know what's going on with Facebook on my laptop, but that is all just not working for me with lives. It was asking me to create a room today. So if anyone knows anything about that, feel free to educate me because I am deeply unaware. But I am aware of who we are chatting with today. So forgive me if this is a bit uneven. It's just, we're just going to work with it. We're just going to roll with it as it is. We are exploring the sacred and shadow archetypes right now. And yesterday, the gorgeous Brie Jones went live with the Wild Woman, which was just so profound and such a gift to have her deep wisdom. She's been integrating the Wild Woman now for really the 18 months of her postgraduate journey. And, you know, it's not superficial work to really, when we're being called in by an archetype, to really give ourselves over to it. And, you know, not for a day or a week or a month for a meditation or any of that, but really to surrender all of our fear in and around becoming congruent with what the medicine of that archetype is. And today we are going to be exploring one of the shadow archetypes. So you might have a little memory that last week we looked at the saboteur. And what we are doing today, or who we are meeting today of the shadow archetypes, is the child. So I'm just going to put my lip balm on. I forgot to do that before I started. I'm not going to enjoy this at all if I don't have that. We are going to sit with the energy of the child, and I'm going to share a little bit about my understanding of the way the child archetype can play out in our lives. And then I think we might spend just a few minutes tuning in to see if there's anything directly she has for anyone here, but I'm not sure about that yet. So let me just ask the child how we're going to be connecting with her. But I just want to tune into her now, and you're welcome to do so with me. And I just, you know, in saying that, I was having a beautiful conversation with one of the baby priestesses just before this session, and she was talking about the shadow archetypes in a really wonderful way, because I really understood that she understood what it is to work with our shadow archetypes. We often mistakenly think that if it's our shadow, then we're meant to overcome. We're meant to get past our shadow self to become the light. And the opposite of that is true. We're meant to integrate our shadow so that it naturally comes back into homeostasis or balance. We're not trying to overcome our shadow archetypes. We will never evolve beyond them. They are part of us. They belong to the fabric of our being. We're just learning how to work with them in a productive way. And all of our seeming shadows and fears have good medicine in them. They are engaging us in a conversation. So please don't think that you're limited by your shadow. You are... Sorry, my mum just called me. The shadow is simply serving us to see where we have work to do. And so it goes with the child. So as we tune in now to the child, please don't be afraid that you're... with that shadow energy. The shadow energy is really productive, and it's serving you, as we've said. So let's tune in now. So if you're safe to do so, closing down your eyes, spot in front of you, and allowing yourself to just tune in to that heart center. You might like to place your hand over your heart. Begin to deepen and extend your breath. Feeling the belly fill on the inhale and pull back to the spine on the exhale. Beautiful work. And just anchoring into the energy of your heart. And feeling yourself, perhaps for the first time today, beginning to expand into your subtle body, withdrawing your attention from the superficial world and going within to the world within the world. This is the home of our symbolic sight, and the archetypes are the language of our spiritual sight. When we become conversant in archetypes, it's like unlocking another layer of meaning, the deeper meaning. And the child is here for all of us today. All of us are being invited to understand ourselves through this most holy shadow archetype of all of the shadows that are holy and sacred, as I've said. And I want you to imagine now, not the literal inner child, not you when you were 3, nothing to do with that, but the child archetype standing before you, perhaps sitting before you, perhaps running around before you. It doesn't really matter. The child is not an actual literal child. The child archetype is an aspect of self that has resisted or is resisting its maturing for whatever reason. There's some benefit to the child to stay away from its full expression, to stay outside of its full divine inheritance and self-sovereignty. That infantilization, that staying in the resistance or rejection of itself in its fullness. I just want you to, with your hand on your heart, attune to your highest form of intelligence, to really just notice the child archetype in front of you. Notice their size, their age, their way they're dressed. Notice their nature. Are they calm and collected, or are they stamping their feet? Are they petulant and, shrugging their shoulders? Are they turning away from you, or are they looking directly at you? Just notice what you notice about this child archetype. Not trying to fix or change. Just notice if they come towards you or if they want to stay away from you. None of it matters. I just want you to tune into them. Practice attuning to your symbolic sight. You might even ask them if they have a name. Does your child have a name they want to share with you? Don't worry if you don't receive a name. It's entirely irrelevant. And I want you to notice how you feel in the presence of the child. Are you resistant of them? Do you want to deny that the child archetype is within you? Are you embracing them? Are you sad? Are you joyful? And now I simply want you to ask your child, what would you have me know right now? And let that answer come in whatever way it will. You might feel or sense, hear or see, or simply know. It may be a word, a sentence, a symbol. Allow yourself to receive. And when you're ready, and only when you're ready, lower your hand to your lap. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Let it go. Let go. Let go of all of that. And as you're ready, blinking, open your eyes. Okay. So if you have something near you, you might want to write down what you've just received or just commit it to memory. You might notice that before I shared anything about the child archetype as I understand it, I've invited you to have your own personal experience, because it is always in our connection to ourselves and our intuitive wisdom that we will find the greatest truth. But now you've had that connection, I'm going to share a little bit of the way the child archetype can show up for you. And it's a very multifaceted archetype. And if you follow Caroline Mace's work, there are subsets of the child, which I am not going to go into today. I'm just going to speak about the child broadly. And that's what we do in the 3rd level training. And the way we work with the child is just through that meta archetype of the child. I guess the best shorthand for the child archetype is that it's the abdication of personal power. So whereas the victim feels their power has been taken from them, for whatever reason, it benefits the child to give their power away or to abdicate personal responsibility, to abdicate personal power. And this can mean that they get to stay in a naivety. They never learn from their life's experiences. They don't turn their experience into wisdom. When the child is in her light form, her guardian form, she's the guardian of innocence. And of course, the innocence is very different to naivety. Naivety is where you end up experiencing the same things again and again and again, different people, different situations, but the same kind of life events, without ever taking the wisdom or the pearl out of the experience. And so you may find yourself repeating patterns of destructive behavior, because if you stopped a minute and took some personal responsibility, you would be seeing with a maturity that would mean you'd have to take action, you'd have to make change. And for many of us, the rejection of our personal power means that we feel we never have to make the change. It's always up to somebody else to make the change. We can just sit there in our naive space and just kind of go, well, I don't have to do this because I don't want to do it. So the benefit is of not maturing is that I never have to show up to my life in its fullness. I never have to be the one to do the hard work. I never have to take on that level of responsibility. You know, this is why the Peter Pan archetype or image is so much part of or associated with the child archetype. In its shadow, it's the rejection of becoming the fullness of what we can be. And we will do that for lots of reasons, often a codependence with someone else, like in interpersonal relationships. You might play the child in your partnership because it works for your relationship, for your partner to be the adult and for you to play this kind of more passive childlike role in order for both of you to get your needs met, whether that happens to be, not being on your own or having someone pay your bills or whatever it is that codependence is. So instead of stepping into your womanhood or manhood, you stay in a non-threatening state because you realize that will get you more of what your ego believes it needs, which is, perhaps physical safety in the world or, someone who will take care of you. So that idea of someone will take care of me is very interesting when we start to look at our spiritual evolution. The child archetype is often where we're the role that we're in when we start to come to spirituality in a big way. And this is kind of the religious model of spirituality, where there is God, aka Dad, somewhere up there, higher power, keeping a scoreboard. You got to keep Dad happy. And if you keep Dad happy by being good and nice and kind and going to church and doing all of those things, then you won't be punished by Dad. And that childlike relationship with God is a really great way to never have to step into personal responsibility around your own commitment to know yourself as God. I mean, if Dad is God and God is Dad, then I couldn't possibly be Dad. I mean, God. I couldn't possibly be the adult in my own life. I couldn't possibly be this infinite consciousness. So it's a really convenient stage to sort of sit inside of our spiritual maturing, because it gives us a sense that someone else is taking care of the details. It's this idea of the way we misuse karma by stating, oh well, they'll get theirs, they'll get their karma, as though God, Dad, is keeping a scoreboard and everybody's going to get the justice that they deserve according to you. So we're very much in this infantilizing relationship with God, where we want to believe that someone's going to reach down and rescue us and pull us out of all our troubles, and all we have to do is just kind of sit there wide-eyed and never take action. So the child in its shadow is passive, it's inactive, or its action is destructive in order to keep it in a state of disempowerment, because that is how it will never have to mature. The maturity that comes from living something and turning the lived experience through into wisdom cannot happen when we're in the child archetype, because if we did that, then we'd have to take personal responsibility. And I've said that a number of times, but I think it's really critical to those of us on the spiritual path to notice when we're falling into the passive God will take care of it. I can kind of do anything, blah, 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 or I can do nothing. It's all being taken care of by something else. It's out of my control. Dad's got the power. And this pattern of seeing God as dad we do it in a lot of different ways in our lives through, our politicians wanting to believe that our presidents and prime ministers are all seeing, all knowing, benevolent creatures and that dad will take care of it, when that's patently not true. But it means that we never have to step up. We never have to mature. We never have to step into the world in our power. So I'm really excited for you to now reflect on the message that you received from your child archetype through the lens of that information, and to see if you have a deeper understanding of what you've been offered. If anyone wants to share what they received from their child or how their child looked to them, remembering that your child is in no way needing to look like a child. The child archetype has nothing to do with that phase of our life. So it is absolutely not about them looking like a 3-year-old. It's really interesting when your child archetype might turn up as a crusty old man. So it's very interesting that the ways that we can get intimate with these star signs, these archetypes, to get beyond the known and to really get excited about what is possible for unlocking our subconscious programs. And that's the whole point of working with symbolic sight. So I am going to leave you with that. Please do share if you feel to. It would be really lovely to hear your experiences of directly communing with that child archetype, remembering that the light form of this archetype is innocence. The child is innocent, and the innocent is the forgiving heart. Even though things have happened, I will not hold on to that. I will stay in a renewing state, and really give yourself permission to experience that sense of innocence is a return to love, even when life has been difficult. The child is the rejection of the attainment of wisdom, because then you'd have to actually be present to what has happened, and that might just all be way too much. So let's skip out on that one. Thank you, dear beloveds. Day 9 is done. I'll be back tomorrow with day 10, and that will then leave us with 7 more archetypes to journey with through the month of May. So much love to you all.